Hey, how's it going, guys? So in this video, we're going to be doing a review of the brand new Future album, I Never Liked You. So, drugged up Atlanta trap legend Future is back with his brand new solo album, coming a fair bit of time away from his last studio album, his last solo studio album being High of Life, which came out in 2020, which, me personally, while I have been a fan of a lot of Future's stuff, I've certainly been a massive fan of his druggy delivery and style, mixed with some more croony, harder-hitting, trap-inspired instrumentals, especially on some earlier projects like DS2 and even Pluto in some ways. And I also really enjoy some of his underrated songwriting for a trap artist of his level on albums like Monster, and even going into more R&B direction on albums like The Wizard. So throughout Future's whole discography, I think he has had some pretty good highs compared to a lot of other trap artists, but he has also had some lows, and I think High of Life was probably his biggest low at that point. From just bad lyrics, him running out of ideas, mediocre songwriting, mediocre features aside from the Travis Scott feature on Solitaires, it just really ran dry, and there are very few tracks I actually remember from this thing. Even the Drake track, with how big it was, I barely remember that, despite how big it was. But thankfully, I think this new album, I Never Liked You, has a lot of things to actually like about it, and is a big step up from High of Life. I think there are some good production choices made on this album. I think some of the beats are actually well made. Not amazing beats, mind you, because I would say that Future hasn't made an album with some amazing instrumentals since DS2, but beats that actually work for him and beats that actually do kind of stand out. Like the opening track, 7:12 PM, for example, which opens with a Hatsune Miku sample, which automatic W right there, and some nicely arranged strings and what sounds like a sitar arranged in the beat here, and Future once again goes at it, kills it with the delivery, even if that homophobic line and the line about not caring about a church being shot up were a bit much. This is a very solid opening, but then again, Future has rarely missed on opening tracks. Would I say this track compares to a song like Thought It Was a Drought? No, not necessarily, but it is a solid tone setter for this album. We also have the song Keep It Burnin' with Kanye West, which was meant to be a Donda 2 track, and while it is sad to see the Talking Heads sample removed, what is provided here is still great. The production, the sampling is terrific. Kanye and Future's chemistry is terrific. Both their verses are great. Kanye's chorus is a little weak, but still one of the best tracks here. We also have the song PUFFIN on ZOOTIEZ, which has more subtle production compared to the other two, and an interesting vocal sample that pops in at certain parts, and some more introspective lyrics from Future. We have the song Love You Better, which I will admit, in terms of production, is one of the weaker tracks, but is one of the stronger tracks lyrically, as Future here, you know, despite all the toxicity that he has really built himself on throughout his whole career, and especially on this album, which we will get to soon, this is one of his more introspective and wholesome moments on this album, and I do appreciate that. We have the song Holy Ghost, which, holy shit, this is one of the best instrumentals I have heard in a Future song in a long time. It's haunting, it hits hard, Future's delivery fits it perfectly, and yeah, overall just a solid track nonetheless. So yes, on this album, this is an improvement of High of Life, and there are some great tracks here, but sadly, just like a lot of other Future records, and just like a lot of other trap records we've been getting recently, there are some duds here and some cringe tracks. Now, I will admit, there are nowhere near as many duds as some other trap albums we've been getting lately, a la Gunna, but there are still some pretty unmemorable duds that need to be mentioned, like the song I'm Dat Fella, which instrumentally, boring. Lyrically, very few bars that really pop out here. Some of the ones that do are some of the ones that pop out for the worst reasons. And despite being 4 minutes long, there is nothing about this track that justifies its 4-minute length, because Future here, by the halfway point, the track should have ended. And even on this track, it doesn't seem like Future's saying that much more than what he's said on other tracks before. We have the song For a Nut with Gunna, Speak of the Devil, and Young Thug, which, once again, Gunna just completely under-delivering here, really trying to hold the hand of Future and Gunna too much. Future's hand on the left, and Young Thug's hand on the right. And yeah, just continuing with his awfully cringe lines about cum. Like, come on, Gunna, you already did it so badly on DS Forever. Why do you need to keep it up here? and Young Thug really doesn't do the track much justice, and nor does the production, and the whistling that you can hear within it is quite cringe too. So yes, I do have some flaws with this album in terms of the tracks, but I think my biggest gripe with this album comes from some of the features being very mixed, as well as Future himself. Because while there are a few tracks here where Future is doing fairly well and providing with some memorable bars and some introspective lyrics, there are other parts where there are some cringe bars here. Because yeah, at this point, Future's toxicity and his toxic attitude towards girls and misogyny in some way is nothing new at this point. He's been doing it for years, but it seems like on this album he's trying to put it into some sort of different concept, but really, lyrically, it's nothing special, and him being 38 years old, it's kind of getting old at this point. It's coming across a little bit one-dimensional and a little bit too misogynistic for someone at Future's level, his age, and for how long he's been doing this for. It's just kind of starting to sound a bit outdated, and that's really the biggest gripe I have with this album is I do not care for a lot of the lyrics that are provided. Like the song Wait For You, which has Future trying to win us our sympathy, which really doesn't work here. And we had the song Worst Day, which is featured on the deluxe version, so not featured on the album I'm reviewing, but it's basically a song about Future saying how he has too many women on Valentine's Day, too many girlfriends, he has trouble pleasing them all. But really, Future, I don't sympathize for you. When you're as famous and as big as you are, of course you're going to get that. Or maybe just stick to one girlfriend, okay, if that's what you're really worried about. And the features here are another issue I have with this album. While there are some good features here, like Kanye's feature on Keep It Burnin', like I said, we have Kodak Black's feature on Voodoo, which is very understated. His performance here is insanely heartfelt, tragic, and really means something, but Future just does a bad job at contemplating it. ESTG's feature on Chickens is just meh, but the song itself I really think just did not have to be there. Future himself is just not really doing it justice, and the chorus here is cringe. We have Young Thug and Gunna, like I said, on For a Nut, which is just... yeah, what can I say about this one? And then we have Drake, who has two features on this album. One of the features where he does really good on the song I'm On One, which I will admit this track's another highlight for me because Future and Drake's chemistry here has been more prevalent than it ever has been in years. More prevalent than any of their features on CLB, more prevalent than any of their features, including that feature on High Off Life. Because yeah, I'm really starting to get the What a Time to Be Alive memories on this track because Future does a great verse here, Drake does a great verse and sounds animated. Yeah, they sound great together. But then we have the other Drake feature on the song Wait For You, which is just absolutely boring and forgettable. And we also have Thames on this track. Like, the Drake and Thames track on CLB was already boring as hell, and it's no different here. Thames' vocal performance here is subtle, but is just absolutely lifeless and has no emotion whatsoever. And we have the song Massaging Me, which is probably my least favorite track on this entire album. Like, what the fuck is this? Future's performance is out of whack here, the chorus is cringe, the instrumental is basic as hell. And speaking of basic, we have the closing track, Back to Basics, which kind of exaggerates the term basic, as this track for a closing track is just boring. And especially coming right after a solid track like I'm On One, this is just not a track that I want this album to end on. So yeah, overall this album, while there are some highlights here, some solid tracks here, some of Future's best songs in quite a few years, there are also some duds that follow up some of the highlights, which just makes this album kind of all over the place, makes this album very hit or miss, just like other Future albums lately, such as the self-titled album and Hendrix. So yeah, I think this album is just okay. I don't think it's too bad. I think there are some good songs here, and a couple of songs that I could see myself coming back to within Future's discography, but other songs that I just would completely leave out. So overall, I'm going to give this album a light 5 out of 10. Well, thank you guys for watching this review. If you guys enjoyed, let me know a like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you thought of this Future album. How does it compare to some of Future's other albums? What are your favorite tracks? What are your least favorite tracks? Let me know. But until then, guys, until I see you in the next review, stay tuned, have a good day, and take care. This is RhinoRatesMusic signing out. Bye-bye.